Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Emily again with Dragonlings by Emmy's Art, and tonight we are talking about how we're going to set SMART goals. So make sure that you go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, and stick around. We've got some cool stuff to cover, and it won't take too long. Alright, so welcome back. Today we're talking about SMART goal setting. So some people, I've learned, have a really hard time figuring out exactly how to set goals for themselves. So we're going to talk about some kind of techniques that you can use and just a very easy mnemonic to help you figure that out. I'm sure some of you have heard this before. I did not invent the SMART system of goal setting, but I have used it a lot, and it really does help you to kind of like hone in on the details. So goal setting, it means different things to everybody. You know, we're all trying to accomplish different stuff in our lives, whether it's personal or like, you know, if it's your job, your career, whatever. We've got different goals that we set. So we've already talked about motivation versus discipline. We've talked about building willpower using baby steps. And we've also talked about organizing your priorities in our last video, and you can actually find links to all of those videos listed below. We're only going to do one more video after this one that covers like the basic habits and skill sets of getting ready to try to kind of ease your way into running your own business, if that's where you want to go with this. Otherwise, they're just useful skills and tips for anybody who's kind of trying to take more control of their own life situation. So let's talk about SMART goal setting. You think about what you're trying to achieve both for long-term and short-term goals, and this, like anything else, takes practice. You're going to have a hard time at first knowing exactly which details matter the most and which ones are okay to leave out or adjust, and I am a firm believer in adjusting everything as I go. Like, I like to have it written down because that gives me guidance and like a visual, plan of attack. So you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, but I'm also really okay with saying that didn't go the way I wanted it to, or we're gonna change tracks here and approach it differently. It just helps me personally to have that visual sort of reminder in a written format. So SMART, S-M-A-R-T, SMART goals. So what does it mean? Here's what it means. S is going to mean specific. You want your goals to be very specific. What does specificity kind of come down to? That could be something as simple as saying, this year, I want to sell more of my product, whether it's, I'm sculpting, but you could say I want to sell more of these oven mitts that I make, whatever you do. But when we get specific, we're saying things like, I want to increase my sales by X%, which brings us to our next one. That's going to be measurable. So if you're just getting into running your own business, measurable might be a little bit tough because you don't really have a great sort of data sample. You don't have years of work and practice behind you to go up against. So if you're just getting started, you can do something like, I want to try to sell X number of this thing. That's fine. That's totally measurable. It's quantifiable. I think, that definitely counts. In my case, I kind of look year over year and say, last year I did this well with my sales at conventions and this well with my sales online. And what are my goals for trying to increase those numbers for the coming year? So that's measurable. A, you want it to be achievable. Don't set goals for yourself that are so far out of the park you can't accomplish those. Now, I'm a big fan of ambitious goals. Totally fine with that. If you say we did X number of dollars of sales, let's work on like a small kind of like easy to understand. Let's say you sold $100 of stuff this year, and you say next year I'm going to try to double that and sell $200. Well, if it's sales and you're doing it for the entire year, I would hope that you're able to accomplish $200 worth of product sales in the following year. However, when you get into bigger sales amounts, if you say I made, I don't know, let's say you made $17,000 this year, it sort of becomes unachievable to say that you're going to double that the following year unless you have a very concrete plan in place. But if you're doing this like I am, like you're just starting off and maybe you don't have resources or financial advisors or people who are working for you, if you're doing it all on your own, don't be unrealistic about that, which brings us to our next one. You want this to be a realistic goal. So it's achievable because you know it's within your grasp, and it's realistic because you're saying to yourself, in essence, I'm gonna do this, right? Everybody fails, everyone makes mistakes, and that's totally okay. If you don't do the thing you set out to do at the beginning of the year, you don't kick yourself, you don't give up. You just say, okay, it was realistic, but we fell short. Not a big deal. We're still gonna, swing for the same goal next year, or you can bump that goal up. I mean, like I said, I change things as I go, adjust and adapt. Lastly, we want it to be time-oriented. If you do all of this goal setting, SMAR, without the T, what you end up with is basically just like an endless dream that has no deadline, and you don't feel that pressure. You have to put a little bit of pressure on yourself to get anywhere. You have to say, by this date, by this time, whatever your time measurement is, I will do this thing. So like the other skills that we talked about in the previous videos, those will really help you in getting your SMART goals set up, because they're just habits and healthy sort of skills that you're going to need in order to hold yourself accountable, to figure out what matters and when you're going to do the things that matter the most with your organizing priorities, and also being able to say, today is not the day, I really don't want to do it, but in order to achieve the goals that I've set for myself for the time period that I have set for myself, I have to do it. And you're your own boss now, right? So like, you've got to just get out of bed or get off your butt or whatever it is that you're feeling kind of lackadaisical about doing. Time to be your boss. Time to say, too bad, you said you were going to clock in at this time today in order to achieve these things, and get out there and do it. So SMART goal setting, pretty easy. Like I said, it takes a little bit of work to fine tune knowing exactly what is achievable and what is realistic and how long it will take to do those things. And the more experience you have with it, of course, as with everything, the easier it gets. So let's talk about real quick, and then we'll just wrap it up, the difference between long-term SMART goal setting and short-term SMART goal setting. Probably a lot of you don't know a lot about me other than the fact that I sculpt the dragons, or maybe you don't even know that I sculpt dragons. But so let's just talk a little bit about that. My short-term goals are things like, I just need to finish the semester, getting the grades that I told myself I absolutely could get. And, I even break it down even further. I'll say, this week I'm going to have all of my assignments turned in one day before they're due. Why would you do that? I don't know, because it's a goal I set for myself. It's a fun way to kind of, like I said, we're building up that willpower with little tasks and accomplishments and achievements we can set up for ourselves. I'll do that with everything. I do it with everything. I will admit, though, I have not been keeping my desk clean every night. Like I said, I wanted to try. There have been a couple of nights where I've just said, forget it, I'm going to bed. But for the most part, I've been doing pretty well with that. So those are like little short-term goals. Like I said, finishing my classwork on time or ahead of time. Or short-term goals could be things like within the first 6 months of the year, I want to expand my product line and start including an additional creature. I don't know. I mean, I do snails, snakes, turtles, dragons, whatever. I could say I'm going to start also sculpting butterflies. And I'm going to have 16 of those done before June. I did not set that goal for myself, but I kind of want to sculpt butterflies. Anyways, long-term goals. For me, I have known for a very long time that I want to basically be living debt-free by the time I'm 40 years old. Earlier would be great, but 40 is what I consider to be realistic and achievable. So I've been taking steps for a long time to put myself in a position to make that happen. It's not something I just dream about and assume one day it'll be there. I'm actually working toward it now. Taking a lot of steps, doing a lot of research, managing my money well, and not living outside of my means. All of these things come into play when I'm figuring out how exactly can I get to being 40 years old and have all of this covered so that I don't have any debts anywhere. And my fantastic boyfriend has been very agreeable to my goals and sort of, you know, along for the ride for the most part, but I think we're in it together. I mean, we are in it together. It's just sort of, I'm much more goal oriented and driven about these things, and he's just like, all right, let's do it. Let's make it happen. So my point to you for tonight, to wrap it up, is that you can pretty much achieve anything that you really want to, as long as you understand the breakdown from the big picture into the little tiny steps to get there. And you have to commit. You have to commit to yourself, you have to commit to your dreams, and you have to commit to a lifestyle. And it's a lot, but that's why we're doing this. That's why we're making these videos. That's how I'm going to show you what works and what doesn't. And also because then you get to see my successes and failures as I go, because I haven't achieved everything that I've set out to do yet. But I'm documenting that process, and we're learning and we're growing together. So thank you for watching tonight. I hope you come back next week. We'll have our last video for our set of skills and habits that we're building in order to tackle bigger things in running your own business. And yeah. Have a good night.